Paris, May 1925. 6 of the richest scrap metal dealers in France step out of limousines at the Hôtel de Crillon, the kind of place where one night costs more than most men earn in a month. They've been summoned by the French government, or so the invitations say. Confidential state business. Upstairs, a smiling official shakes every hand and offers to sell them the Eiffel Tower. Here's the thing. It worked. And 1 month later, he did it again. I'm Victor Cross. I chased men like this for 30 years. The man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice was the best who ever lived. This is his file. To understand how a man sells a national monument, you have to understand the man. And the first thing to know is that Victor Lustig was only one of his 47 names. Born in 1890 in a small town in Bohemia, good family, better education, 5 languages. By 20, he'd studied people the way other men study engineering and found them easier to take apart. His first hunting ground was the Atlantic, first-class lounges on ocean liners, where bored millionaires drank champagne and went looking for clever friends. There was a scar on his left cheek, a jealous rival in Paris, the story went, though he told it differently every crossing. It always ended with the other man losing. His favorite tool was a small mahogany box. He called it a money machine. Feed it one genuine $100 bill, wait 6 hours for the chemistry, and it printed a perfect copy. He'd let the buyer test it, twice. Both bills spent beautifully, because both were real. Lustig had loaded them himself. Then he'd refuse to sell it. That part matters. You never chase the mark. The mark chases you. They begged. He surrendered. $10,000, sometimes 30. 6 hours later, the box produced blank paper, and Lustig was 2 train stations away. One Texas sheriff tracked him all the way to Chicago over that box. Lustig calmly convinced him he'd been operating it wrong and refunded him in counterfeit bills. The sheriff was arrested for spending them. Then, in May 1925, in a Paris cafe, he read a newspaper article that changed everything. The Eiffel Tower was rusting. Built for the 1889 World's Fair, meant to stand 20 years. The city could barely afford the paint. Parisians called it an eyesore. Some said it should come down. Most people read that and turned the page. Lustig read it and saw 7,000 tons of iron with a for sale sign only he could see. A week later, he had official government stationery, a forged commission, and a brand new title, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, the ministry that ran the tower. Then he mailed 6 letters. 6 letters. 6 wealthy men. Now watch closely, because everything that follows is a lever, and he pulls them in order. 6 invitations. 6 scrap metal dealers. Not the 6 biggest, the 6 hungriest. A confidential meeting at the Hôtel de Crillon. Tell no one. Lever number 1. Let the room do the lying. A crook rents an office. An artist rents a palace. The Crillon had hosted kings and peace treaties. Nobody checks the credentials of a man who belongs in that lobby. He told them the tower's upkeep had finally beaten the Republic. It would be sold for scrap. 7,000 tons of iron to the winning bid in this room. Lever 2. Secrecy. The public would riot, he explained. Not a word to the press, not even to your families, not until the ministry announces it. Understand what secrecy is really for. It sounds like discretion. It functions as a wall between the mark and a working telephone. He rented limousines and toured them around the tower like a landlord showing an apartment. Rust here, repairs there. He knew the numbers cold. The newspapers had printed them for him. Lever 3. The clock. Bids due in 4 days. Urgency doesn't make people stupid. It makes them fast. Fast is close enough. And through it all, he watched. Because the tour wasn't for them. It was for him. He was choosing. André Poisson. Provincial. New money. A man who'd bought his way into every room in Paris except the ones that mattered. To him, a contract with the Republic wasn't iron. It was a knighthood. Lever 4. The perfect mark isn't the greediest man in the room. It's the one with something to prove. Poisson's wife smelled it. Why the secrecy? Why the rush? Why a hotel and not the ministry? Madame Poisson was the only real investigator in this entire file. So Lustig did the thing that separates craftsmen from legends. He confessed, privately, wearily. A government salary, government hours. A man in his position was expected to be taken care of. He asked for a bribe. And every doubt died on the spot. Because a corrupt official is a real official. Nobody bribes a fake. The bribe wasn't extra profit. It was the authenticity, sold separately. Poisson handed over a briefcase of francs, the bid plus the bribe. By most accounts, more than $1 million in today's money. In exchange, Lustig gave him a bill of sale for the Eiffel Tower. A briefcase of cash for a monument he didn't own. That was the easy part. Act 3 is why he's a legend. 24 hours later, the Deputy Director General was in Vienna with a suitcase of cash, reading the Paris newspapers every morning, looking for the scandal, the manhunt, his own face. Nothing. Day after day, nothing. Poisson never went to the police. He chose to eat the loss rather than let Paris laugh at him. Write this down. Shame is the con man's insurance policy. The only crime where the victim pays the premiums. And here's how you know Lustig had ice where the rest of us keep nerves. The silence didn't just mean he'd escaped. It meant the con was reusable. 1 month later, he was back at the Crillon. Same suite, same letterhead, same speech. 6 new dealers. But the second batch was warier. One of them made a telephone call before any money moved, and the whole thing lit up. Lustig was gone within hours, ahead of the police, on a boat for America, where, the legend says, he pulled his boldest trick. He asked Al Capone to invest $50,000 in a stock deal. 2 months later, he returned every cent. Deal fell through. Capone, staggered by the sight of an apparently honest man, handed him $5,000 for his trouble. Which was the plan. The whole plan. You don't con Capone with a fake stock. You con him with a real refund. The end, when it came, wasn't clever at all. A counterfeiting operation. $100,000 a month in Lustig money. And one jealous phone call to the Secret Service from a woman he should never have crossed. They took him in New York, 1935, and locked him in a federal jail they called escape-proof. The day before his trial, he cut 9 bedsheets into a rope and went down the wall of the federal detention house in broad daylight, pausing at every floor to wipe the windows. A crowd gathered on the sidewalk and watched the window washer work. At the bottom, he bowed and vanished. 27 days of freedom. They caught him in Pittsburgh. 20 years, Alcatraz. Pneumonia took him in 1947. And on the death certificate, under occupation, someone typed, apprentice salesman. Apprentice. Case notes. 3 red flags from this file, still warm after 100 years. 1. Secrecy that forbids checking. Tell no one never protects the deal. It protects the dealer. One phone call to the actual ministry would have closed this file on page 1. Anyone who builds a wall between you and a telephone is telling you exactly who they are. 2. Prestige is rented. A palace lobby. A title on letterhead. Today, it's a verified badge, a crisp suit on a video call, a caller ID that says government. The room is not the credential. The room was never the credential. 3. If the deal comes with a little corruption on the side, a bribe, a shortcut, some rule you're helping to bend, you haven't joined the con. You've joined the insurance policy. They're making sure that when it all goes wrong, you'll be too ashamed to dial the police. Poisson wasn't stupid. He was managed. The tower never moved. The con never does. Only the letterhead changes. This file is closed. The cabinet behind me isn't. Next case, a man in New York who collected $65 billion over 17 years because nobody checked one number. If someone you love answers phone calls from officials, show them this channel. It's cheaper than the alternative. Cross out.